everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. Once more, dear friends, let us go into the breach. And we're back at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, we're going into the breach this week. So as I said, welcome. Welcome to all our followers on Facebook. Vinny just joining in, a bunch of others. Welcome HolyFaith Media viewers and Arana Nation over on YouTube. And special thanks as always to Jonathan Ross, Joe Campo, and all those who are supporting the front line with Joe and Joe. I wanted to, we have our topics that we're going to talk about tonight, but as Italian-American men, I don't know, we're not going to get into a whole segment on this. Joe and I wanted to just do a quick, what do you want to call it? We won't call it a hit job. That might be too La Cosa Nostra for the thin-skinned Chris Cuomo, but a little bit of a critical analysis of the Chris Cuomo situation. Did you see this?
I did.
All right, so just as a quick backdrop, so now the new rage, obviously, in America since Trump became president is conservatives out to dinner, would you say, in public places, getting harassed by the left, by the likes of Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and radical organizations like this. So it happened to Ted Cruz, it happened to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, happened to Kristen Nielsen, and the left didn't say boo. In fact, that's all they really said was, no, this is wrong for them to do, but you got to remember something, and not these words, of course. These are the haters. So Sarah Sanders and Ted Cruz and Kristen Nielsen, you know, they're the haters. They hate people. So we understand why these people who are fighting hate would attack them in public places. Well, now it happened to one of theirs, okay? And I think I said I wanted to comment on this because of the nonsense and just to clear the air amongst non-Italian Americans out there, just so that they don't get the wrong idea. Chris Cuomo's no victim here, okay? And the reason why I say that is I would say in fairness that I don't want, let me put it like this, I didn't want this to happen to him. I don't want it to happen to anybody, quite frankly. I think that people, I don't care who they are. They could be an avowed communist or who's in a position of public authority. I'm not going up into her. I think their ideas suck. I'm not going to go up into a restaurant and start abusing them when they're with a wife or kids or whatever the case might be. But CNN always kind of like gave these people a pass when they would attack conservatives. So now Chris Cuomo, he's out, and this guy comes up and, I'm sorry, I found it funny because it's not offensive. He called him Fredo. And Chris Cuomo's recourse, I think we were talking about it, Chris Cuomo's recourse was, no, that's the same as the N-word. That's the same. No, it's not. I mean, do you agree?
No, it's not. It's not. The guy should have left him alone, but at the same time, he reacted poorly. The one thing I will say, he did apologize.
Who apologized?
Cuomo did apologize.
Oh, so he did?
For his behavior. I mean, it just goes to show things are out of control. People have to calm down. They really do. Like, leave people alone and just calm down.
Would you agree that the next time that this happens, people on CNN, okay, not necessarily only Chris Cuomo, but people on CNN, when it happens to conservatives, they should say, well, you know what? Hold it.
It's not the same. You're 100% right.
No, it's not what happened. See, again, I don't want anything to happen to Chris Cuomo. I think I don't like anything that guy stands for. I never liked his father. I don't like his brother. And I quite frankly think he's okay. But I don't agree with the guy on anything. I'm not going up to him in a restaurant harassing the guy. I'm not going to call him Fredo or anything else for that matter. But that view that I have, that applies equally. I don't want conservatives to do it to liberals or leftists, and I don't want it to happen in reverse. Because in a public place, you should be left alone.
Agreed.
Let's see. This will be an open question for another time. Let's see if CNN remembers what happened to one of their colleagues, Chris Cuomo, the next time it happens to a conservative, and they come out and they condemn that type of action in the public square.
They probably won't.
They probably won't. That's Jeff Zucker. You know, he seems to be unapologetic for anything CNN does. So we won't hold out hope. But I did want to clear the air. Fredo is not the N-word. Not even close. Not in the same ballpark. Okay? Not in the same ballpark. So anyway, So yeah, we just wanted to start off with that and remind you that we're at the front line with Joe and Joe. We got Vinny, Inez, Joe's joining in, my baby's joining in, Karen's joining in. We're at the front line with Joe and Joe, Joe Pasillo and Joe Russinello, as always at 8 o'clock on Sunday night. So where are we starting? Where are we starting this week?
We're going to do a little follow-up for a story we did, I think it was last week. If it wasn't last week, it was 2 weeks ago, regarding Lakewood, New Jersey. In that story, some Orthodox Jews, Lakewood, if you don't know, is a predominantly Orthodox Jewish community. They held 3 protests against the LGBTQ agenda in Lakewood. Well, ironically enough, this week, 100 car tires were slashed of Orthodox Jews in that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. They did not arrest anybody. No one has been implicated in the violence towards their community. However, when we're talking about Fredo, I'm going to do a little Don Corleone, quote. Mm-hmm. I'm a very suspicious man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a very suspicious man. So this is something that there'll be to be continued. We'll probably have to follow up on this and follow it a little bit. But I think it's very coincidental that these people held a peaceful protest and now their tires were slashed.
Well, let me ask you this. If let's say a group of, see, again, this goes back to what we were talking about in the first piece, little piece we did on Chris Cuomo. It's the hypocrisy here. Excuse me. It's the hypocrisy. These are Jews that are being attacked. So you see acts of vandalism like that in a Jewish community, okay? Ordinarily, we have to hear from the ADL, and we have to hear from the Southern Poverty Law Center, and we got to hear about the rise of anti-Semitism. Well, these are Orthodox Jews who have very traditional views on marriage and the family, okay? And they're against this lavender agenda that's being rammed down the throats of the American people. And now it seems like I didn't hear too much. I actually tried to search to see if there was any sort of outrage over this. I don't even find the story. I'm having a hard time. These are Jews being threatened because acts of vandalism are threatening to a community.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's threats. Now, again, if you were attacking the same group of people because if they took a stance that was pro-LGBT, the ADL and the SPLC would be all over it.
Well,
but these are Orthodox Jews who are against gay marriage. They're against abortion. They're against these things. And I don't hear anybody coming to the defense.
In fairness, nobody's been arrested yet, but I just think it is coincidental that they just did this and that 100 tires were slashed. All I'm saying is we're bringing it up to your attention. What Joe says is right, without a question, and we will follow it. So there'll be more to come on this. I'm very interested because I bet you they will catch the people who did it.
Well, they said that the only thing I had read in one article, it was a very short article. Again, I could find no extensive coverage of this whatsoever because, again, it doesn't fit the liberal left narrative.
It's not the narrative.
Is there? They have one guy in a hoodie, but one guy in a hoodie, all right, is not gonna. I don't think he's gonna be responsible for 100 acts of vandalism. Okay, so you have to believe it's somewhat coordinated. And again, like you said, you're being suspicious. We're spitballing here, but we have to. All I want is simple fairness. Simple fairness. In other words, I want to see people coming to the defense of this group of people who have these sincerely held beliefs, which are correct, by the way. Okay, they're traditional minded as far as their view of the family is concerned, and they're being attacked for it. And I don't like the silence on the left, particularly the left that's always quick to condemn anti-Semitism when it comes from Catholics or Christians or Muslims. Okay, in other words, because let's say they're saying hateful things towards Jews, and usually it's always qualified by something political. Liberal Jews as opposed to Orthodox Jews, because there is a difference.
Absolutely.
As far as the left is concerned, there is a big difference. Okay, if you attack one group of this same group of people, that's okay. We're seeing that here because again, where's the coverage? I want to see the coverage. We'll try to follow it. We'll follow it as best we could, and I think it's worth following. And we'll just stay on top of it for you. But again, another story that's not going to be covered by the mainstream media. They won't touch this story with a 10-foot pole.
I would agree. So let's get into it. That's just a little follow-up piece. Because again, these are the type of stories that we cover, and that's what the Frontline's all about. Our first segment of the night is the Medicare-for-all discussion. Basically, what I'd like to do is answer something for you that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren is not putting out there. How is it going to affect the middle class? You know, a lot of times you hear things like it's going to be the 1% who's going to pay for it. The middle class aren't going to be affected. Well,
we're going to tax those
not true.
rich
and what
Wall
I'm
Street
going to do
bankers.
for you is break it down mathematically. I saw a study. The study was conducted by Justin Hashkins. He's a research fellow at Heartland Institute. So you can Google that if you want to find out a little bit, you know, a little bit more than what we present to you. But in terms of who is for, just for the record, Medicare for all, we have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Kamala Harris is not really going all in on this position. She's almost like a hybrid of Obamacare and Medicare for all.
For now.
For now. To be honest with you, I think she's basically, you know, not showing her true colors or trying not to.
She doesn't feel the time is right, so she's
Correct.
not going to get a position
Correct.
either way. So
let's just break it down by the numbers.
and this is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
We talked about this before. I'm going to shut up because everybody needs to open their ears to this. The most important thing, aside from the fact that we don't want the government running healthcare, just let's do the math. And this young man at this Heartland Institute, he's doing simple math. And simple math really is all you need to debunk this. Go ahead.
Absolutely. But, you know, this is something, what he's doing, these are the questions you should be asking, because this is what I've said. You don't just buy a car without asking questions. You don't just put your vote down without asking questions. Obviously, we know a lot of politicians, if not all of them, tell people things just to get elected. Well, these are big decisions that are going to affect your pocketbook. So you should ask these questions. So I'm going to break it down for you mathematically, and then comment if you disagree with me, and or if you feel that what I'm presenting is incorrect, please post it during the week. Basically what he said is the cost for Medicare for all would be between $30 and $40 trillion if they were going to do what they're saying they're going to do. 30 to 40.
Shouldn't that make people just stop right there? Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
That perspective. So 30 to 40 trillion. Now I'm going to give you some perspective on it. If anyone tells you that the top 1% is going to pay for it, and Joe has used this analogy, if we went Roman. So what I'm going to say is this: if we took every single penny of the Forbes 400
right,
in America right now, every single cent that they own, that would be $2.9 trillion.
right.
So doesn't even scratch the surface of 30 to 40 million. Okay, so let's.
And remember a central point to that. Once you've taken that money, it's not recurring money. Not like you take it and those people are going out and earning another 3. No, once you've taken it, that well just ran dry.
And
because now that you've taken it once,
that's true.
They're not going to go out and earn $3 trillion again. So there's going to be more money there for you to take next year.
Correct.
Go ahead, Joe.
Good point. That is a good point.
Right.
So in 2022, if this was to go into effect, Americans earning between $50,000 and $75,000 a year, they would basically, from their paycheck, $7,700 to $9,000 extra federal dollars will be taken from them.
You hear that?
So
$7,000 to $9,000, which is
extra.
about $700 to $900, or $700 or $800 a month extra on top of what you're already paying.
Keep this in mind: if you make $75,000 in northern New Jersey, you can't live.
You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're living paycheck to paycheck. If in fact you get paycheck to paycheck, so 75 grand's nothing to raise a family in North Jersey. So they're taking
between $7,700 and $9,100 from you extra in federal taxpayer dollars. Okay, if you're making between $75,000 and $100,000,
because now you're rich. Now you're rich.
By the way, a family of 4 in New Jersey, Southern Bergen County, which isn't, to be honest with you, very middle class, and you're still starving.
Right.
You're starving.
But remember, according to the government, once you get to that $75,000 to $100,000 bracket, you're rich now.
So you're going to take between $13,000 and $15,000 extra from your paycheck.
Not the 1%.
Breaking down the money.
Not the 1%.
Breaking down the money. Now, keep this in mind. Here's the caveat. They don't care about me because I'm in the private sector and I'm paying around $8,000 a year in taxes anyway. Okay, and I'll admit, me and my wife both work, we don't fit into either bucket. We're above that bucket. So I'm not, but we have control of what we basically want in terms of healthcare. They're going to dictate that to you, but they don't care about me. This is the funny part, and I want all the teachers, all the cops, all the Teamsters,
all the firemen, all the union people
to know this. There are 180 million people who are in private plans. Many of them are union people, like teachers, for instance. My mother worked 25 years for the teachers union. She has a union plan, and it's a Cadillac plan. It's the best insurance there is. New Jersey teachers have phenomenal insurance. Phenomenal, compared to me, anyway. They don't pay an additional, because most teachers fall in the $75,000 to $100,000 bracket in New Jersey. They're sure as heck not paying $13,000 to $15,000 extra of federal taxes. Now, all you teachers out there, Vinny from Hoboken, I know you're a teacher.
My baby's starting in Southern Bergen County.
There you go.
In September, so that's going to be her career.
Could you make your bills? Could you make your bills if we'll take the low end, $12,915?
Right.
Could you make your bills if I took $12,915 out of your paycheck? See, this is what they're doing. And this is the questions we have to ask.
But isn't Donald Trump, let's say it's Elizabeth Warren. I don't really think Bernie Sanders is going to be their nominee. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know who's going to be their nominee. To me, they're all from the same pit of hell. So I don't really even know, I don't know if you win either way if one or the other gets up. Let's say it's Elizabeth Warren. Donald Trump's going to eat. If she proposes anything like this, if they adopt anything like the Sanders plan to appease the base and get the base along with moderate Democrats to vote for them, Donald Trump's going to eat their lunch. He's going to say it exactly the way Joe just said it. He's going to break it down.
But people won't believe him. Like, as they probably
but you know when they believe it, Joe, this is the problem. This is what we talk about in this country when it comes to raising our consciousness. Don't wait for it to happen before you say no. Say no now and say we don't want that. We do not want that. We don't even want to go there. Again, we talked about it before. I don't need to know how bad an idea is after I see it in practice. I could look at it on paper. I could look at the ideas that are being laid out and say, I'm either for it or against it. And this is something you just got to be against on paper and say, do you really think they're going after the rich with this? Do you really think they want to entrust, heaven forbid, you with the choices, the healthcare choices for you and your family? Do you really think that's what they want? This is a power grab. It's what that's what Obamacare was. Let's face it, that's what Obamacare was. That's why Joe Biden, Uncle Joe, famously looked at him when he thought the microphone was, this is a big effing deal. That's what Joe, because it is a big effing deal. For the left, the control of the healthcare industry and subsequently our healthcare choices that we have is a big effing deal. All right, their words, not mine. Joe Biden said that to Obama, so I'm not cursing on the front line with Joe and Joe. They want control. They want control, and they're going to try to sell it how they can. Now, you could say that they're not going to believe Donald Trump, but who are you going to believe? The party that brought us Obamacare and championed that? We know what kind of disaster. I think my point, Joe, is that I think the American people are going to see through it this time.
I hope so.
I think they're going to believe it when Donald Trump says, "Go ahead, Pocahontas, tell the American people how much more. Tell the American middle class." The wage earner making $50,000 to $75,000 a year. You go tell that man and that woman that's making that kind of money that their taxes are going up $7,000 to $9,000.
I'll be honest with you.
They're going to, Mr. Trump, where do I pull the lever for you?
But this is also, keep this in mind. Right now, if you have insurance, and I'll be the first one to say, we have to do something. But borrowing from Peter to pay Paul is not the way to do this. This is not the way to do this. But even if this was to go into place, keep this little fact in mind. The quality of your healthcare is not going to be the same.
No.
That is a fact. It is a fact. I work with someone who comes from Toronto, and he told me straight out, Canada, everyone talks about Canada all the time. I go to Canada every year. Every year I go there, you turn on the television, they're constantly selling supplemental healthcare plans. Supplemental dental, supplemental healthcare plans. Basically, what this gentleman told me at work, he said this, if you have a basic procedure, it's covered. You break your arm, you have a baby. Like anything else that requires a specialist, you're paying.
You're finished.
Which means you need a supplemental plan.
Right.
Why was it when Mick Jagger had a heart operation, where'd he come?
America.
New York.
Right.
There's a reason for that. So not only are you going to be paying, the quality goes down.
Right.
I'm not saying that nothing should be done. Something has to be done. This is not the answer.
This cannot be the answer. How about this? Why don't we get back to the concept in this country? But like even jamokes like us understand what insurance is supposed to be. Insurance is for things that are unforeseen. Insurance should not be for normal, normal, ordinary things that happen in the course of somebody's life. Insurance, we need to get back to that. Okay, we were talking before the show, like just on a superficial level. Let's say I'm spending $800. I told you before. I've told the audience before. I'm spending $800 a month just for me and my wife. Okay, through a private plan. That's $9,600 a year. Okay, generally speaking. Okay. Again, in the normal course of events, do I use $9,600 worth of health benefit or health services? Even with special procedures, okay? My wife had gotten a special procedure. I had one early in the year. We're still on the 80-20 rule, so 20% of that we paid as far as the deductible. So I had to shell out like $1,500 for mine, $3,000 for my wife. So we're still paying part of that, okay? So my point is that why don't we start? Well, welcome back.
Sorry, Facebook's giving us trouble.
Yeah,
if we break off again, we'll come back right back. It happened to us once before.
I told Joe I want to find Mark Zuckerberg. Let me be nice about it. But my point in general was that insurance, we need to get back to. It's not meant for the day-to-day things. Let's have more of a market when it comes to, let's say, usual normal everyday procedures that people need, going to the doctor, things like that, right? And be able to get a little like you always say. Let's be adults about the whole thing. Stop being ideological about the whole, because that's all this is ideology. Would you agree?
Yes.
That's all this is ideology. This is all falling into lockstep with what the left wants to do and their vision for, what they want the healthcare industry to look like, and very few practical, particularly from the left, practical solutions. I think you mentioned a couple weeks ago, Trump's going to be coming out with a plan soon.
Correct.
All right. See, I can't wait to see that. I want to know. See, because to me, he's not an ideologue. I don't know where people get this idea that Donald Trump's he's going to try to come up with some practical solutions.
Well, again, you got to ask these questions and break it down by the dollars and cents. Let's all remember what Obamacare promised us with his plan. I just want to touch on this just a little bit. Let me quote him. If you like your healthcare plan, you will be able to keep your healthcare. Your doctor, basically. Right. You'll be able to keep your plan. If you like your plan, you'll be able to keep your plan. What else did he say? He said deductibles and premiums will decrease. Actually, the opposite happened.
Right.
He said that they will be reduced premiums by $2,500. That absolutely did not happen. So you got to look to an independent source. That's what I just did. I went to an independent source. Mm-hmm. It's an institution. This gentleman is an academic, and he broke it down. So you got to look at that, and you got to think of it by the numbers, and then ask yourself the question: can you afford that money? I mean, listen, because it's big money. Right. That's a lot of money coming out of someone's paycheck that makes $50,000 a year. You're going to take an extra $7,000 to $9,000.
Right, and there's always and let's just say, for argument's sake, we give them the benefit of the doubt, Mr. Sanders, all right, Senator Sanders, that okay, you're going to pay these taxes. But you're not going to have to pay any more co-pays, any more deductibles, and everything else. Let's say that was true. Then the question still remains, if it's just equal, if I'm paying now the same amount of money as I would if I let the government do it and I'm not paying anything out of pocket then. But who's in control, Senator Sanders? That's the question that we're asking. That's the question I want answered. Who controls my health care? Me or you? Because I don't want you doing it. So I want to do it. So what you need to do is you need to get out of the way. We need to have more of a free market approach to health products and services offered by pharmaceutical companies, doctors, and everything else. Start to deregulate so we can start negotiating with the doctors, negotiating with the healthcare providers, okay, and the pharmaceutical companies, and use our market strength to reduce the prices, and let us be free to shop for catastrophic illness, for things we can't foresee, because that's what insurance is for. Insurance, I should not be paying $800 a month just so I could get a checkup and a blood test every year. I could pay for that out of my pocket. I should be paying, let's say, $500 a month, and God forbid I have a heart attack, when I have to listen to Bernie Sanders and the rest of the Democrats, and the vein pops out of my head, and I'm on the verge of a heart attack because my blood pressure goes through the roof, okay? For that, I want to be covered, okay?
Makes sense to me.
That's real insurance. That's real insurance, okay? Because that, again, because none of us knows it all, we don't know what's going to happen down the road, so I want to be prepared for me and my family for that eventuality, and let us shop in the meantime for those things we need on a more day-to-day basis when it comes to healthcare. But you said it before the show when we were talking, this is a loser. This whole plan, like you said, go ahead, go tell the teachers. What's going to happen? Answer for this, Joe. What's going to happen when he presents this to the teachers, the cops, the firemen, and everybody else?
Well, they're going to say carve us out.
Carve us out, and that's not going to happen.
And if they don't, then they're going to say vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
You'll get that. If you're a teacher, believe me, the New Jersey teachers won't stand for this. No way.
Right.
If you told the New Jersey Teachers Association we're dropping your health care plan, they will vote for Donald Trump. Believe it.
Right.
In a minute.
Right, because like you said, you pointed out the numbers. This would be a huge expense, an enormous expense.
Say you're making $86,000 a year. You're a teacher in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and they're going to take an additional $13,000 in federal taxes from you. Try keep living in Bloomfield doing that. No way.
No
way. You're
way.
not making your mortgage. You're not paying for your car. You're not eating the way you normally eat. You're not vacationing where you normally vacation, if you even can vacation for that matter.
Right. Well, because Senator Sanders wants to take his pound of flesh. Get out of here. We're not going for it.
Once again, I apologize for that little break. That was Facebook. So if it happens again, we'll just keep going.
If it happens again, I'm getting on a plane going to find Mark Zuckerberg, slapping him around a little bit.
Sometimes you got us.
Go ahead, deplatform me for saying I want to slap you around, Zuckerberg. All right. Anyway, so you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello, 8 o'clock Sunday nights. As always, we're always here. We're in the breach. We're at the front line. So we started the show. We were talking about the treatment, or at least what we could see as I would say, a threat to the Orthodox Jewish community in Lakewood, New Jersey. In this case, we don't know who it is right now, but it's vandalism that's being perpetrated against them, because we can only surmise this all happened after they were very public in their protest of the LGBT agenda, okay? The drag queen story hour and things like that. So came across an article that I sent to Joe this week that I wanted to talk about. Dennis Prager, who is also a Jew, all right, very conservative. I don't know if sometimes I get confused about the breakdowns. He's conservative, and let's just say he would be the equivalent from a moral point of view as let's say traditional Catholic.
Okay.
When it comes to pro-life, pro-family, not wanting to rearrange the family in any way, okay? Not just the LGBT way. And he wrote an article, I forgot where he wrote it. Was it the Federalist? I forgot where it was published. But Dennis Prager, you can look it up, Dennis Prager. Now, this is something that Joe and I always talk about. We always talk about the political issues, and this is what we do around our kitchen tables, okay? Shout out to Artie. We went, and my wife and I enjoyed some our friends Artie and others, and we had a little get together yesterday. Same type of thing, little kitchen table politics. And Dennis Prager is a guy that basically speaks our language. Okay, he's saying these things, but it's like we always talk about. We talk about these political issues, but you have to watch when the media is trying to keep you focused here on immigration, on healthcare, on taxes. Dennis Prager's point is, be careful about what's going on over here. The thing that you're not hearing about. And I would just say that to segue into this article that Dennis Prager wrote, because that's really what he's saying. He says, while we're all arguing about all these issues, here's the real danger. And what are those dangers,
Basically,
Joe?
what he does, he lists 5 ways how the LGBTQ machine is dismantling society. Now, this is not just society here, it's globally. So he kind of goes down, and what Joe was saying, the article comes from Town Hall. So if you want to read it for yourself, please do so. And just, again, if we get cut off, please stay tuned. We're just going to pop right back on. This has happened in the past, sadly. Sometimes Facebook gives us trouble. That could mean we're doing something right.
It could be.
So, but let's go through the 5 things that Dennis lists. He's an interesting guy, too. I definitely suggest that you follow some of the things that he writes. He's a very intelligent man, and he has a lot of good things to say. In terms of the list that he notes, he says, the LGBTQ group is dismantling women's sports. And basically he says something along these lines, and I want to quote it because I think it's important. He says, because the Western world cowers before the LGBTQ demands, no matter how fair they are to women athletes, men who deem themselves female must be allowed to compete against women. And almost always they lose. The females lose to these individuals.
Just clarify one thing, it was unfair.
Unfair.
No matter how unfair.
How unfair.
Because that's where the whole question is coming, the unfairness, the injustice of this
And
law.
we've seen that in Connecticut. Connecticut High School, there was a transgender boy running in track.
And on the girls' team.
Crushing
Everybody. And I think he alluded to that in that article too. There was the weightlifter, okay? Well, why does the man who's pretending he's a woman, why is he winning? Okay, he's winning because he's got testosterone flowing through his body. That's why he's stronger than the women. So he could dress up like a woman, but the fact is this is unfair to the women in that sport, and he crushes it. And Dennis Prager, I think, also wrote in that article about the one that you're alluding to. No, the track team.
Yes.
The two boys running track against the girls, and they always come in first and second. It's two boys who think they're girls, and they come in first and second. Now, whatever their problems are, they should not be allowed to play sports against the girls.
Well, it'll destroy women's sports. There will be no more women's sports. If this continues, bottom line is, if you go to high school, you don't make the boys' basketball team, then you just try. Isn't
that the road we're headed down?
Well, that's it. I mean, if this is the legality, you can't have it both ways, legally speaking. If this is what you want, this is what you're going to get.
Right.
And that's what he's saying in terms of he's listing these things whereby they're destroying our society as we know. Well, not destroying our society as we know it, but they're dismantling certain aspects of our society, and this is one of them.
Well, but this is the way. I mean, people don't want to. This is where we're in the breach. Okay, people don't want to understand that. Number one, these people are being used. Okay, all these people that they say that they're the defenseless people and the ones who are being persecuted by us big bad Catholics and Christians and now Orthodox Jews, evidently. Okay, they're the victims. These people are being used for a political agenda. People need to get that straight. This weightlifter is being used in the pursuit of a political agenda. Those two boys who think they're girls in Connecticut running on the girls' track team, okay, they're being used for a political agenda. And yes, this does have to do with control. In other words, they want to create a lot of confusion out there, particularly amongst young people. All right, I'm not saying they want to turn everybody into being transgendered or gay, but they do, let's call them the oligarchs, or those who want to have political control. They do want people to be of the same mindset. In other words, and for them, what that means is easily manipulable, easily controlled. So that when it comes to our very last segment, well, we just talked about Medicare-for-all and breaking down numbers. You're going to get a bunch of people that Joe and I have said a million times. We're going to say it a million more times, so it gets hammered into people's minds. They want a bunch of oversexed or sexually confused or some form of that overdrugged, all right, individuals whose intellects have been so dull that they don't even ask these questions. They don't care about math. They don't care about how you're going to pay for it. They really just don't. That's the type of population that these oligarchs want. That's why they pursue this agenda. And these people, these poor souls, are being manipulated, and they're being used in this culture war, because that's what it is, Joe. It's a culture. Remember, we always say, and others have said it, it's not an original idea from the front line with Joe and Joe. Politics is downstream of culture, okay? In the culture war, or it's through the culture war, that you achieve the political victory, okay? And that's ultimately what they want. That's why they're pushing it. What else does he do?
Well, basically what he says, another one of the five, the second one he notes is they're dismantling the biological terms of male and female. Now, what do I mean by that? At birth, in some states, they're leaving an option open for the parent to choose the gender before the birth certificate is finalized. California, Oregon, Washington, New York. That's what the article basically says.
I just want to throw this in. And yes, according to the article, and soon to be New Jersey.
Given.
Go ahead.
They call it an undesigned gender option on the birth certificate. So they're eliminating a biological fact. This is, we always talk dogma, science. Well, this is science.
Right.
A boy has something between his legs when a baby is born. Well, now
Well, now that doesn't mean
That doesn't
anything.
mean anything.
And the fact is, if you look at it,
I don't know what to say.
Joe and I are not biologists, okay?
I know that.
Yeah, we know that much, okay? You know, I get real funny about it. But the fact is, yes, when the baby comes out, it's immediately know what that baby is. But then there's also, this is why all the sports and everything else, because, you know, they want, again, the left wants to convince these people to reject who they are by nature. Remember, this is a culture war. So this is a war against nature, against the natural law, certainly against the moral law, certainly against societal order, let's say the family, the traditional family, okay? This is a rebellion against that. There's over 100 characteristics or characteristic differences between men and women, the male of the species and the female of the species, that you don't necessarily see right off the bat, but that you know that again, it's not dogma, it's science, okay? And one of them is testosterone. One of them is that men are faster. The other one is that men are stronger. And here you got men, young men, or in some cases grown-up men, pretending to be women who they're letting, this, I don't wonder where the feminists are here. They're letting women get beat in these sports unjustly.
Well, they get trumped.
They get trumped. Is there something going on there? You got to be
They
careful.
get trumped on that one. Sorry, you ladies.
Well,
out there.
gay trumps
the women's
women's issues. And who proved that? Who proved that? We talked about it a few weeks ago. Martina Navratilova. Okay.
She came out against this, and they basically shut her down.
They shut her down. What'd she do? She had to walk it back. It's always, I love that phrase, right? Walk it back. Here's one thing Joe and I will never do. We're not walking back anything. If we said it, we mean it. If we made a mistake, we'll make a mistake. But if we said it, we're not walking it back. Okay? And that's what she had to do. And I think it's somebody else in the article, too, had to do the exact same thing.
The guy from head of the class, what's his face?
I forgot his name, but the bottom line is he had to walk back.
What he said about like 3-year-olds that a parent like shouldn't have to decide whether the 3-year-old, like, he's in Hollywood, he's an actor, he's like a B-list actor.
He's a B-list actor who's never going to make the A-list now.
Basically, then he knew that probably his career was in jeopardy. Basically, he said if a 3-year-old, the parent shouldn't decide for a 3-year-old what sex that child should be. It's either a boy or a girl.
Right.
It's not for them to say you're now.
You're now something other than the way you were born.
And then he had to walk it back, which is ridiculous. I can't even believe we're talking.
Because you know what's funny is he got the call from the agent. You know, the agent sitting there going, "You're never going to work again in this city if you don't take back what you just said about the gays." That's exactly how that went down.
Mario Lopez.
So there you go. Again, another example of free speech. This guy's going to lose his job or potentially not get hired for a job as an actor because he says something that disagrees with Big Brother, with the leftist orthodoxy, with the gay agenda. It could be with the abortionist agenda. If you're saying it, again, going back to the Orthodox Jews, I guess being a Jew doesn't, they're not protected as Jews when they take positions that, let's say, the left doesn't like. Now, all of a sudden, the left wants to go after them. It's all part of the same swamp of a culture that we have. That's why we always say we have to cut through that darkness with the light of truth. You got to tell the truth about these things. It may seem like we're talking about a lot of these topics over and over again, just in different settings. They occur in different places. But underneath it all, this is part of the culture war. We have to keep saying it because, and again, who are the victims here? In one case, it's the girls. Okay, the girls who have broken their butt to become very, very good at their sport are being trumped. Okay, by the lavender crowd. The weightlifting woman now is, a man thinks a woman lifts more weight, she gets beat, and again they have to. Martina Navratilova, she had to walk it back, and what she said was the truth. Martina Navratilova told the truth, but she was forced to have to take the truth back. Joe and I will never take the truth back because the truth is the truth. It's out there.
Absolutely.
But Dennis Prager.
It was a very good article, and I invite you to read it. And let's go to the third thing he said. He basically said they're dismantling children's innocence and parental authority. We've seen this with sex education being forced down our children's throats from K to 12. In kindergarten across the country, they're teaching sex education from an LGBTQ perspective. Speaking personally, I don't want my children to learn that. I simply do not. I don't think it's necessary, and I'm sorry. I don't want my children. I pay taxes too. My opinion counts. Also, the drag queen situation in public libraries. I pay for those libraries too with my taxes. I am not for that, yet my opinion does not count. And if I voice it, I am put down.
Well, you're a hater. You're a hater. You're a hater.
Frankly, once again, there's no place for children. What else are they doing with regard to education? They're dismantling educational norms. In Illinois, just recently, they passed a law which stated that this particular group's history has to be taught in public schools. What history? What significant history has the LGBTQ made in this country that you're going to teach it in a class in, say, civics,
right,
in
but
10th grade?
But here, ask yourself a question. Is there anything that great that can be taught from let's say American history, that someone did because they're gay? Those being gay made them do this great and wonderful thing.
But Joe, it's just propaganda.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's all propaganda. If somebody does something great, they do something great. Okay, great, something that you could pick apart and say, wow, that was a really great thing to do. Okay, it's just great on the by its nature, and whether or not that person is gay or wherever they come from has nothing to do with it. But they want to go. You know what they want to call greatness, and we'll get into this in the third segment. Greatness is participating in the Stonewall riots. That's greatness, man. In other words, they fought against the man.
Honest with you, I never even heard of it until about 6 months ago.
It was an insignificant event. In other words, they're making it out to seem like something that we need to cover. So let me tell you something. Pretty soon, the 4th of July is going to be replaced by Stonewall Day. They already have a Stonewall commemoration day. Obviously, we have June. The entire month is rainbow colored. Okay, but Stonewall's insignificant. Nobody cares about Stonewall. Only the people that want to push this agenda
Jesus
care
Christ
about Stonewall.
doesn't even get a month.
No, he doesn't get a month.
He gets
a couple days in around the winter, a couple days in the spring.
He rose from the dead.
Right, he rose from the dead. But if you protested at Stonewall, man, if you protested at Stonewall, that's like the equivalent. If you protested Vietnam, man, like I protested, nah, man, I marched against the war, and nah, man, that's what they do. They want to commemorate an insignificant event. We said it before. Joe know, and the people that watch us, and the people that talk like us, okay, and the people that listen to us, we know how full of crap you are. Because again, we're going to say it right to your face again. You wouldn't get on a plane, all you Stonewall people, go out to Portland and go beat the crap out of those people that beat the crap out of Andy Nago, who is gay. Didn't matter to you because he's gay and conservative. So his gayness doesn't count. Only yours does, okay? So you're all a bunch of hypocrites. That's why Joe and Joe have no problem pointing out your nonsense. Nobody cares about Stonewall. The only people who care about Stonewall are the elites in New York City. Well, we're in Jersey, pal. We don't care about your stupid riot, all right? And we are not going to commemorate it. And like Dennis Prager said, we know what you're trying to do by trying to teach this to our kids like this is something great and wonderful. No, it's not. No, it's not. And if somebody who's gay did something great, we'll talk about it being something great. Doesn't matter that they were gay. Okay, it has nothing to do with it.
And lastly, what they're doing is they're dismantling reality. Let me give you a couple quotes. They basically said, this is from Ilhan Omar in a letter that she wrote to the U.S. powerlifting organization. She basically said, the myth that trans women have a direct competitive edge is not supported by medical science.
Now, who's got their grip on reality there?
Really? The thing is, how could people say such lies? That is such a lie.
Yeah.
And it should be embarrassing. She should be embarrassed, but you should literally look at her and be like, are you out of your mind?
But we talked about this before. The gang of, what are they, the squad, the terror squad, whatever they are, right? Omar and Tlaib and AOC. Joe, their lines are being fed to them. I'm sorry. Those women are stupid, okay? They don't have original ideas. None of them do. Whatever they say is being fed to them to say. Omar didn't make this statement. Somebody wrote this statement for her, but catch the language. Remember, we all have to, again, open our eyes and open our ears to the language that the left uses. The myth. So if you believe this, you believe in myths, okay? The myth that trans women have a direct competitive advantage. No, that's actually a statement of biological fact, okay? When you say that, yes, I'm sorry with the trans stuff. A man who's pretending he's a woman has a direct competitive advantage. There's no myth involved there. It's a statement of biological fact, okay? Is not supported by medical science. I don't need medical science to support me, even though science does. I have eyes to see. I know what a man dressed as a woman looks like, and I know what a woman looks like. and I could tell the difference outwardly between the two.
Okay.
But again, it goes back to language. That's what you were bringing. The language that the script writers for Omar and the rest of them, the myth, that means that if you believe in reality, Joe started this particular subsegment with, in other words, this is an assault against reality. So if you accept reality of things, the reality of things, you believe in myths, because Omar says, or her handlers,
there's no medical
that there's no medical science. So if you believe that, you believe in myths. See how dangerous? This is why we're not talking up here. You have to roll up your sleeves and get into the things they say to unpack it and tear it apart. This is dangerous stuff.
Well, there was another one. This is from the National Women's Law Center, Sunu Chandy. She said, there is no research to support the claim that allowing trans athletes to play on teams that fit their gender identity will create a competitive imbalance. Once again, the same thing. This is a lawyer. They're lying. They're lying to your face. Basically, this is the thing. Because lying is not an issue, basically to them, truth has no value. No value. Lying is not an issue to them. They will just simply lie. The truth means nothing to these people.
Well, they deny.
Zero.
Well, they do deny objective truth. Now, on questions, on moral questions, okay, I used to think that they might have a little bit more of an argument. That whole idea of, well, who's to determine what's right and wrong? I've grown up since then and realized that there is objective truth. But what they want to do is they want to, like you said, they also want to deny biological realities, okay? Physical realities, okay? Things that you cannot change. Like when a boy is born, it's a boy, okay? And nobody should do anything to stop that boy
and nor can a parent
from
say
developing.
on a birth certificate that boy is a girl because they wanted a girl. I have 3 kids. 1 is a girl and 2 are boys. That's not my choice.
Right. No, that's God's choice.
Right. So, it shouldn't be the parent's choice either. Whatever you get, you get.
Right.
And you put it on the birth certificate. And this is, by the way, a scientist delivering the child. You're going to be complacent in this stupidity. You're going to basically say, that boy is a girl, and we're going to put that on the birth certificate. You're a scientist. You should be embarrassed.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But like you said, it's an assault on the truth. It's an assault on reality. We know that there's an assault on the truth because there's an assault on particular, we know as Roman Catholics, there's an assault on the church. There's an assault really on all anything considered to be orthodox in any way. So leaving aside the differences in individual religions, just like we started with the Orthodox Jews who agree with the church and the church agrees with them on issues of marriage and life, okay? They're all the enemy of the left because remember, this is all Orwellian. He's the genius, that pointed this out a very long time ago in 1984, and Animal Farm, okay, is that truth becomes a lie, lie becomes a truth. Ignorance is truth, truth is ignorance. Peace is war, war is peace. Whatever the party wants to make you believe. So they'll have you in this segment you were just talking about, when it comes to sports, when it comes to things, they want you to deny reality. And you say, well, wait a minute. And there's a great scene in the movie, I remember with 1984. I say the movie because it was Richard Burton and John Hurt, 2 of my favorite actors. And John Hurt plays Winston, for anybody who knows the novel. And he's on the table, and Richard Burton plays the party man, right? And he's applying pain to John Hurt. He's applying, they're torturing him basically. And he holds up his fingers and he says, how many fingers, Winston? And he says, I see 4. And they apply the pain. He says, how many fingers, Winston? He goes, how many fingers, Winston? He goes, and he's trying to convince him to say there's 5 fingers, but he's only holding up 4. And John Hurt was great. He goes, I want to say 5, but I only see 4. You see my point in telling the story is that's what they want. That's what they're. So when people like us say, I want to see people get along. I don't want to see people get hurt. People who are gender confused and all this. But we're not going to lie. I only see 4 fingers. When I see a woman, I only see a woman. When I see a man, I see a man. When you see girls on a track team, I see girls competing. Men on a weightlifting team, I see men. I see 4. I don't see 5. And that's the answer. And that's why I bring up 1984, because it's a perfect example. They will try to convince you to deny reality, to deny the truth, and it's one of the biggest things we have to fight. We have to fight against.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay?
But sadly, people I've seen very smart people just go along with it. They go along with it. Just shout out to Suzanne. She's coming at you from Erie, Colorado.
All right.
Pretty
all
cool.
right.
Pretty cool. Thank
These
you for joining us.
Suzanne said these people do not live in objective reality, and because they use the argument of their authority as a lawyer, that we're all going to snap to attention and believe them. We agree. They put themselves, again, they give themselves, I mean, they have legitimate, what would you call it, status, let's say, because they went to law school or doctor.
She's basically speaking
Right.
from, what is it, the National Women's Law Center. I'm sure she's a very intelligent woman.
I don't doubt it. But Suzanne's point is like, yeah, you're right, Suzanne. Just because they speak from authority, well, again, we will say a couple of jamokes like us, when we look at reality, we don't look at reality. The reality doesn't change when this lawyer looks at it or when we look at it. Reality is what it is. The truth is what it is. That's why there's an assault on it. And we want to thank you, Suzanne, for chiming in. But I got a bunch of people who came back on after Zuckerberg cut us off there, and JoJo jumped right back on at the front line, and we're in the breach Sunday nights every 8 o'clock. Joe Pasillo, Joe Ricinello. So we got Suzanne, we got Artie, we got Leonie, Sean, Joe, Sue, Karen, my baby's out there, Jonathan Ross. Jonathan Ross, he'll edit the video together so it'll be seamless, and he'll post it on Facebook for it, so it won't have any break. Thanks, Jonathan Ross, HolyFaith Media, and all those over at Arana Nation, over on YouTube. So yeah, so we have to, as we always say, we got to fight for the truth. We got to stay in that breach and keep telling the truth. So here's one that's gonna make Joe Pasillo's brain fall out. So because it involves New York City. So having said that,
yeah, let me
take it away, Joe.
Our last segment, like you said, it's coming from New York City. It means a lot to us, obviously, because we're from here. We're from Jersey, but we work in New York. But I'll break down the story, and whether you know of this or not, I think you'll be interested in it. Basically, the mayor of New York's wife, her name is Charlene McCray de Blasio.
Does she even use the de Blasio?
Actually, she doesn't. I added that.
Okay, because I usually...
She doesn't, actually.
Oh, right.
She does not. It's Charlene McCray. That's his wife. Anyway, she was tasked with a project. It's called She Built NYC. And basically what they're trying to do is level the playing field with regard to statues. They want to dedicate 7 statues to women, because in their view, there are too many statues to men. Now, that could be possible. I don't know. I didn't count them. I never took note of that.
Let's assume that we need more statues of women.
We do. Women contribute absolutely to society. So what
Which women?
So, well, there we go. So what does she do? She puts out, I guess, like some type of means of voting for citizens. So you could vote to see who you want to have a statue. And the person who comes back with the most votes is Francis Xavier Cabrini. Who is that, for people who may not know? Well, she was a nun. She was an Italian nun. Of course she was Italian.
Of course she was Italian.
Anyway, let me not go on that tangent. But she was an Italian nun. She comes to New York during a time when there was a heavy migrant population, particularly Italians, in New York City. She is recognized globally. She is declared a saint by the Catholic Church. She established 67 organizations for immigrants across the globe.
Repeat that, Joe.
67 organizations to help immigrants across the globe, many of which are in New York, and her body, she landed in New York. Most of her work was in New York, and her body is entombed in Washington Heights at Mother Cabrini High School, which is named after her. So she got the most votes.
I think she did some things. I think she did. Now
Pretty
there's a woman. Okay,
I
we're
think.
Catholic, so maybe we're a little biased.
Even if you're not Catholic,
but even if you're not,
take away the fact she's a nun. She organized schools, hospitals, 67 organizations that help immigrants. Now, immigration is a hot topic, as we all know. It's debated constantly. Well, she directly helped the immigrant coming to America in the early 20th century. Her name was immediately taken off the list.
Right.
Immediately. She got the most votes. She wasn't considered. Now, who made the list over her? 2 men who dress up like women, who participated in the Stonewall riots, and who created, they founded a gay liberation group called STAR. There will be a statue of these 2 men who dress up like women, Mother Cabrini,
out the window. So not only does Mother Cabrini, who did tremendous work for the poor and the immigrants, okay, not being honored, okay? You're not even putting up a statue of a woman.
Only in New York.
Only in New York. You want more statues of women, but instead of finding women, you get two men who believe they will pretend they're women, and those are the statues you're going to put up. And why did you start this out? You wanted statues of more women, and now you still have the same amount of statues of women.
This is an interesting comment. Suzanne from Colorado said there's a statue of her in Golden. There's a shrine in Golden, Colorado, to Mother Cabrini.
Yeah, I was actually there a year ago. My wife's friends, they're in Denver, and we took a ride, and it's really beautiful. You have to go up the like a mountain. This is the lower part of the Rockies, so
okay.
It's as you're going up. So still, you're in the Rocky Mountains, and the Cabrinis, and it's funny. Just to digress for a second, they told her, whoever it was, because she was looking for a place to, they said, well, don't go over there. There's no water. She found water. She prayed, and then she found water.
She's Italian.
She's Italian. She's Italian. But anyway, Suzanne is right. So I actually was there. I just want to say, if you ever get a chance to go to Colorado, if you're in the Denver area, go to Mother Cabrini Shrine. It's beautiful. Anyway.
But here's the thing. Now, she does most of her work in New York, and they won't even honor her with the statue. I find this to be utterly embarrassing. Here you go. Here you have a person. She's recognized all over the world. She's a canonized saint in the Catholic Church. She does her work in New York City, and she gets the most votes. And they put her aside. And this is what this is an example of what the elites do. Mm-hmm. The elites basically ask for your opinion. You give them your opinion, and they basically say, "We know better than you."
That's right.
This is a great example of that. We know better than you.
But this is the frustrating part, and why I started this by saying this makes my brains fall out. I said, again, I'm going to repeat it. She's not even offering to put up statues of women. But starting out wanting to put up statues of women, and she buys women, like, again, I don't understand. Do all the cosmopolitan elites in New York, when this idiot McRae says, no, not forget about Mother Cabrini, but leave her aside for a moment. Let's address who they did choose. Do the cosmopolitan elites, do they sit there with their Grey Goose and they say, you know what? We never really thought of that. That's such a great idea. We'll have transgendered women up there. Do they realize they're talking about men? Are they sipping too much of the Grey Goose? Maybe when they're agreeing to this, there's like the whole point. Where's Gloria Steinem? Where's all the leaders of the feminist movement? Okay. How come again, I don't want to see it, God forbid. I mean, I go down to protest in front of Planned Parenthood, pray in front of Planned Parenthood. There's a sign that there's this Margaret Sanger Square. So I don't see any sort of statues to Margaret Sanger. But undeniably, Margaret Sanger was a woman, okay? Even if you wanted to outrage us by putting her up, but at least we wouldn't have the argument, okay, she's a woman. Whereas with this, it's
and a racist.
Oh, she's stone cold racist. But the thing is, this is what we have to put up with. Again, assault on reality. This woman, McRae, de Blasio's wife, who is a lesbian, by the way, self-identified. I'm not calling her. She's self-identified.
She lived the lesbian life.
She lived the lesbian life, all right? But the thing is, like she's not even offering that much. And again, I will ask about the hypocrisy. Where are the feminists?
Well, it's a charade. This is just a charade. It's an embarrassment. I'll be truthful with you. We should be embarrassed that these are the people that represent us. Embarrassed. Everyone who voted for this man, de Blasio, you should be embarrassed. It's a comedy of errors. This is just another example of it. Absolute and utter charade. That's right. In plain English, they talk about immigration constantly. You hear all this. They're so concerned of what's going on at the border. Then you have a woman here. All she does, she dedicates her entire life to helping immigrants. And you don't honor her with a statue. Instead, you honor two men who dress up like women. Frankly, right. Women should be outraged.
That's what I'm saying.
They should be outraged.
And where's
because
the pushback?
They're not women.
Where's the pushback in New York City? You know why? Because they got everybody cowering. And look, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Okay? I'm not God's most brave creature. Okay? I'm not a very courageous person. Okay? All of us could lose our jobs or even talking the way we do. Can we please start grabbing our balls a little bit? Okay? Like I said, I'm not the bravest guy there is, but the truth's got to be told. This nonsense has got to be stopped. Even if they threaten you, okay? Even if they threaten your livelihood. Okay, there's means to remedy that. We could sue. There's all sorts of things. But let's start grabbing our balls, man. De Blasio should not be mayor of New York City. And his radical wife shouldn't have anything to say about statues in New York City. And I'll tell you what, put those statues up. And let's see if New York's got balls. You go and tear those statues down. The way they want to tear down statues of Christopher Columbus. Go there and say, I'm tearing it down because women are supposed to be up there. And that's not a woman. That's a man pretending to be a woman. That's what that's a statue of. Who never did anything other than riot in front of Stonewall. Big friggin' deal. Okay? When is New York and the rest of us, when are we all going to just say, you know what? We're tired of this nonsense. Democrat, Republican, all those things go out of the window. This is radical. This is leftist radicalism is what this is. What we say, rejection of the truth, attack on the truth. Suzanne hit the nail on the head. Truth synonymous with Christ. So Christ is always the one who's being attacked. All right, objective moral reality, the natural law, the societal order. Okay, that's what's under attack. You think because you're going to sit there and you got your job that you're going to be immune from this when they're going after your children? When your 5-year-old comes home and says, "Mommy, my teacher told me," your 5-year-old daughter comes home and says, "Mommy told me, teacher told me that there's no such thing as boys or girls." You're not going to want to rip that teacher's face off? We allow it to happen because we don't tell the truth. And that's what we got to start doing in the public square, not just on social media, in the public square, like those women did in Trenton. Remember a couple months ago?
I do remember.
All right. Or the Jews in Lakewood. Okay. Orthodox Jews standing up who are now being vandalized and threatened in their own community. So at least I say I get angry, but at least there's signs that people are starting to step up. People are starting to fight against it, say, listen, just we don't care if you call us deplorable. Let's just say deplorable. We don't care anymore. Okay, we're fighting against this. The answer is no. And people like De Blasio got to get shown the door, and his wife's got to get shown the door.
Ridiculous.
It really is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I mean, hey, look, the only good thing in God's providence, okay, when all this bad stuff happens, at one point people step up. Well, you know what? Joe and I are having a blast doing the front line. We get aggravated, but we're having a blast here, throwing our voices in with all the good people out there who are having the conversations around their kitchen table, talking about the same thing, wanting to know if anybody else is speaking the same way. Here's our promise to you. We're not only speaking the same way as you are, and we reflect your values because they're shared values, okay? We're out there. We're fighting for you, okay? We really are. We're fighting for our own lives, and we're fighting for you to do something, to save this godforsaken country we live in.
We're in trouble, people. Believe it. We are in trouble.
Yeah.
We're in a slippery slope. And I'll be honest with you, if people don't stand up, especially in the ballot box, we are finished.
I would agree with you.
It is finished.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer hit it on the head when he said, it's a paraphrase, not a direct quote, evil thrives when good men do nothing. That's really what it comes down to. When evil thrives, when good men do nothing. Well, we need to be all good men and women, okay? And make our voices heard, and that's what we're doing here. And we're going to carry on. We'll fix this video. We'll get the Canadian up there. Our friend Jonathan Ross. Jonathan will fix up the video for us. Unfortunately, we got cut out there for a minute, so it'll be in 2 segments. But we'll put it all together and keep it posted on our page. And we want to, of course, thank you all for joining us, for joining the chorus of the truth that we're trying to get out there to the larger culture. And we're going to keep Joe. Joe is the one who really goes and digs deep all week, looking for some stories. We talk about it and say, okay, these are good things to talk about. And we say good things to talk about mainly because why? Because they're not being covered.
Absolutely.
In a lot of other places.
That's what the Frontline's all about. We talk about things that the mainstream media doesn't talk about. And that's why, to be honest with you, you should always check us out and tell a friend, because I think they're valuable, because they affect you. They affect you. This is kitchen table politics we're talking. Kitchen table culture conversation. These are things that affect the average person. We are you. We're no different. We're not elites. We're regular people trying to make a living, raise our families. And they should concern you. They concern me. I'm a father of 3 and I have a wife. And a lot of these things scare me, to be honest with you. And frankly, this country needs to change. Forget about this tribalism of Democrats, Republicans. This is common sense. Someone told me this weekend, it was a great compliment on the show. They said, what you guys talk about is just common sense. Well, sadly, common sense isn't so common anymore. But I do have faith in the average person. The average person, and that's who we're appealing to. We're appealing to the average man and woman. Common sense for common people. to take the country back, to turn around. Take a look at the fruit of what's been produced with the ideas that were presented by the people we have put in office. And frankly, it's time to take them out.
Take them out. We have to vote them. We have to go and we have to vote them out. You want to know something, just to put a finer point on what you just said? You want to talk about tribes, okay? The left always wants to break everybody up into black, white, gay, straight, blah, 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 and all the different things. Here's the tribe we belong to. We belong to the tribe of the truth. And yes, there are tribes. There are those who do not believe in truth, objective reality, certainly moral truth, the natural law, and all of it. Those are your two tribes, those who live within the truth and fight for it, and those who live outside of it and attack it. And yes, that is the culture war in a nutshell. It's adherence to the truth, or it's the rejection and subsequent violence to the truth.
And you have to choose. You have to choose a side. Not choosing a side, you do, in effect, choose a side. There's no indifference to this.
Yeah.
There's no indifference. And frankly, if you do choose a side too, by the way, some people aren't going to like you. Well, that's okay for me. I'll be honest with you, because I care about my children and I love this country. And I will not stand for the country to be thrown into the sewer, or my kids to have to grow up in a world that's worse than the world that I grew up in. And that's the direction that we're going. These ideas are horrible that we cover week after week. They're horrible. There is no value that comes out of these things.
Nothing at all.
Zero.
You can't teach me tolerance by telling me I have to accept this nonsense. I'm already a tolerant person. So is Joe, when we're loving people. This is not to accept this nonsense.
To say that a boy is a girl and a girl is a boy.
It's an act of hatred.
That's just, once again, you're dismantling reality. I'm not saying that person shouldn't be respected. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
What I am saying is a boy's a boy and a girl's a girl.
And that's it.
And that's all. And science says so too, by the way.
Yeah.
Not just me on this show. Science says so. It's actually, I can't even believe we've come to this point in this country. It should make you scared. It makes me scared. That's why we do this show. That's why we talk about things. And frankly, you shouldn't be afraid to talk about them.
Yeah. Anywhere.
Period. Make your voice known. Make your opinion known. I do. And frankly, some people don't like me for it. Frankly, sorry. I'm sorry. I got to live. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. But I have to live with myself. That's what counts to me. I have to live with myself. And I'm not standing for it. Sorry. Not doing it.
Not doing it. And we're not. That's why we're going to be here every Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We'll be having this conversation. We got over 2,000 views, organic views, last week for our show. That number is growing. It's going to continue to grow. The word's getting out there. We have, and you could pray for us. God willing, we may have an opportunity also to be on the radio, and we're going to find out more about that in the very near future. And it's all going to be the same thing. Hitting this society and this culture square in the face with the rod of truth. That's it. And that's what we're doing. And we're doing it in a way that we know you want to hear it, which is the way you guys do it, where we're having a conversation, and that conversation is your conversation, and that conversation, well, that's going on everywhere. See you next week.
See you next week at 8 o'clock, guys. Thank you once again for joining.